Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're going to give it a minute or two as our room fills up. Ooh, it's filling up fast. We had about 400 people register to be here today, and we are very excited that you're all coming in. You're just joining us. We're waiting for the room to fill. Thank you for being here with us. We have a lot of people here, so Zoom takes a minute or two for the room to actually get full. We're over 100 now and still going up. All right, let's begin. My name is Emily Badix, and I am the interim director at the Longmore Institute and future co-director of the San Francisco Disability Cultural Center. I am extremely grateful to witness this conversation today. It's timely, and the all-star team of panelists that we dreamed up all said yes. So I am really excited to pass it over to them in just a minute. But first, we have some access notes. If you'd like more personalized captions from stream text, you can access them at dcc.page/captions. Today's program is a Zoom webinar, so only our panelists are turning on their videos and audio today. We've turned off audience chat for our needs, but you can use the Q&A space like a chat room. You can ask your questions there. You can get tech support if you need it. And if that virtual space is not accessible to you during the live program and you'd like to access it later, you can email access@disabilityculturalcenter.org and we will share it with you. My colleague Mika, thank you, Mika, is posting it in the chat. With that, I'm so excited to pass it over to introduce Topher Ávila, who will be our moderator today, as well as a panelist. Topher, thank you for being with us. Thank you for your assistance supporting our language justice efforts today as well. And please introduce yourself to the audience and take it from here. Check.
Hola, I'm Topher. This is my sign name, Topher here. My pronouns are él, he. I'm a light-skinned Latine, mass presenting person with short hair, mustache, and a goatee, with a solid blue background behind me. I'm wearing a black t-shirt with artwork from Jen White Johnson. The artwork consists of lines reading quotation marks saying disability justice is climate justice, river justice, land back, free Palestine, black liberation, immigrant justice, queer liberation, gender justice, worker justice, and economic justice. Quotation marks, and my description ends. I am here in Austin, Texas, the stolen indigenous land on of Tonkawa, Comanche, and Lipan Apache. Emily T. Maria, I am humble and honored to be here. I also want to introduce that our space here is multilingual and multimodal, with ASL and English, sign and spoken respectively. We are all using hearing sign language interpreters, abbreviated as HI, to facilitate access, so we may need to wait until the signer, speaker, or interpreter is ready to pass on the next person with a check word signal. Please keep in mind that I, as a disabled deaf interpreter, designer, do not receive access to world's people verbatim and vice versa. And due to a third-party interpreter's subjective interpretation we've made vary do not affect communication here. I want to give everyone a quick reminder to drink water if you haven't. And now, Maria would like to introduce herself. Check.
Thank you so much, Topher. It is a joy to be here with you all tonight. I am super excited to be sharing space in this panel. My name is Maria Palacios, and I am a indigenous light-skinned Latina from South America. My pronouns are she, her. I have brown eyes and long brown hair, which is right now pinned up. And I am sitting in a very boring space with a very boring background. And I am joining you today from the occupied lands of the Akokisath peoples, known as Harris County in Houston, Texas. So I'm also joining you from the state of Texas, like Topher. Again, it is such a joy to be here. I am so super excited to have this very needed conversation. And yeah, I can't wait to just dive in. Check.
T speaking. Hi, everyone. My name is T.S. Banks, but I'll go by T tonight. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am a dark-skinned, black, and fat person with long locks. I have on pink, chunky frames and a black t-shirt. You can't see it, but it has the LNU logo. And on the side of me is a pink, blue, and white trans pride flag. And in the back of me is it says LNU Theater Co., Black Power, Write Poet, and Organize. And I am speaking to you from Tejope, or so-called Madison, Wisconsin. Check.
So for signing, thank you, Tia and Maria. Before we start the panel, I would like to ask you all, how has care work always been integrated by and for BIPOC, disabled, LGBTQIA, marginalized folks? Check.
I am muted myself accidentally. This is Maria. And Topher, since you did not call on one of us, I just jump in. But yeah, so I love this question. First and foremost, because I feel that disabled people, and especially queer, BIPOC, marginalized disabled people, we have always been doing this. It is how we survive. So, when people ask us, how did you start doing this? I mean, I'm not always sure how to answer that question, because it is our survival. It is what we do. If we were to leave things to be decided by the non-disabled world, we all be dead. Ableism is so brutal that if we don't do things the way that we do in order to survive, all of our lives will be thrown away. And that is just a harsh reality that we must recognize in order to survive. So yeah, I I love your question because to me, the answer begins with the recognition that as disabled people who have been marginalized, we have had this formula since forever, you know, and it almost amuses me how the non-disabled get surprised by how we do things, because it is something that by nature of the beast we immediately learn. Survival instinct is something that's amazing, and the non-disabled world tends to in their rush to throw us away, they tend to forget how strong we really are, and how the things that we already know and how we utilize them. So yeah, check. And I'll pass it back to T, if you want to.
This is T speaking. And Maria, you really just gave me some energy. Like, I just am so enthralled with your answer. And I agree with everything you said. I think I want to talk about like my like working definition of care work. And so I think my definition is that care work is in like an intentional and consensual building up of supplementation of basic needs. With and um it comes to like ensure that we are doing it usually outside of the state, right? And really taking the 10 principles of disability justice and thinking of like interdependence, right? Like we really want to care work is really establishing a care framework, a mutual aid, any again, supplementation of basic needs outside of reaching for methods and modes of the state. And so I think we have always done this work. I think of Dr. Sammy Schalk's work. Um, she recently wrote a book called Black Disability Politics. And it really outlines the work of like the Black lineages of like care work. And something I really come from like the Black militant organizing, like that is kind of like my wheelhouse. And arts organizing, right? And so she does a good job of like outlining how the Black Panther movement really became centralized in care work, really. And they did that by their survivalist programs. They're feeding folks in the neighborhoods, kids, their free books and breakfast program, at providing medical care. And then also their instrumental ways in organizing and supporting the work of the 504 sit-ins. And I think and so like you said, Maria, we've always been doing this work, but I think it's especially crucial under these times to look back and point to specific ways in which we've done them, because that will help guide us in the future, what worked and what didn't work. Check.
Mm-hmm. This is Maria again. Topher, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I just wanted to like piggyback again on what you said, T. Because I had like in preparing for today, I had written some notes, and I tend to like kind of like just go off script because I'm passionate, and it just feels more natural. But I did write something here about how my definition of care work, and I just wanted to share that. So I define a care work as a network of outside the box resources and connections to each other's humanity, through which we manifest and strengthen the value of our disabled lives as we move forward toward collective liberation. And I just wanted to highlight that, um, because we have to think outside the box to survive. A lot of the tools that we utilize as resources to our survival are not the typical resources that non-disabled capitalist, notions support. You know, uh, the non-disabled world is always in such a hurry to throw us away that they deny us access to the regular resources. So we have to think creatively as to how we save one another. And to me, when we think about care work, it is almost always thinking outside the damn box, because the usual box is not made to accommodate our needs. So I just wanted to plug that in. Check.
This is Topher signing. Damn, we're all on fire tonight. So again, this is Topher signing. I just want to both check in with the interpreters. I noticed that in the introduction, there was a little bit of a delay, so I'll make sure that interpreters are keeping up and able to do so. So just checking in if the interpreters can, at any time, if you feel that the message is going too fast, the interpreters will gesture this hand gesture hold, which means that the space is going a little bit quickly. And that oftentimes happens when we're speaking passionately. So we also will like that reminder if need be to slow down. Okay, continuing to for signing. I have a script here that I'm following, but I also agree with T and Maria in both of their definitions. I feel like a lot of what we shared is aligns with each other, and I think it is a crucial time that we are depending on each other and also looking back at our history and seeing how we've survived many different forms of fascism already. And that we've seen that we've already survived in those systems, but we also see that we can't rely on the systems to take care of us. We have to take care of ourselves. So within that, it requires a shifting in how we view that. So looking back on our ancestors and their strategies and what they used to survive and how they worked together in unison, like Maria had mentioned, the invoking of the mutual aid is something that the system does not want us to have, doesn't want us to have that independence, but that is something that we are creating for ourselves. So that leads me to my second question, which is, what are some of your favorite strategies in practicing care work, especially with fascism rapidly growing, with President Trump's upcoming administration, Meta removing fact checking, climate change, and so on. All right, so Maria, would you like to take that first answer? Check.
Sure. And actually, I made like a little list, and I don't want to like take over, but this is like sometimes answering certain questions is like a multifaceted answer, and you have like many different aspects to it. So again, Topher, your questions are so important, and they need to be part of this general conversation. So I'm super grateful for this space. Some of the things that I think that are important, I begin with a quote that I came up with some years ago, which says, "Self-love automatically fights ableism." And I love to think of it that way, because in a world that wants to destroy us, that wants to throw away disabled people, in a world that makes us invisible, that does not recognize our humanity, loving ourselves is one of the most revolutionary acts of survival that we can possibly engage in. So when I say that self-love automatically fights ableism, have no doubt. It is absolutely so true, because the world is going to be so shocked at how dare we love ourselves, how dare we recognize value in our lives, how dare us want to survive, right? So automatically, when we love ourselves and our bodies and our differences, I love to think that I'm automatically farting on the face of capitalism. So and that's usually when I think about what to do and how to fight and how to survive. um, that's the first things that comes to mind, you know. But there are so many things that we can do, and when we live lives that have been so marginalized and so oppressed, we automatically try to find ways. It's like opening a window. You know, we need to open windows of opportunity, and the thing is that we are the only ones that are like opening these windows and these doors, because the world wants to shut them on our faces. So um, you know, for me, the very first thing that I think about is love. Love, 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 because we have been so despised and so unwanted and so hated, you know, that a lot of times living in our disabled bodies and living our disabled lives is a constant reminder of how ableism once has gone, you know? So I vote for the revolutionary power of self-love as one of the primary keys on how we fight ableism, fascism, and all the other isms that oppress us. So yeah, so there are very many things that we can do, starting with love, sharing our personal lessons of survival as we learn from one another. There's a lot of underground organizing as well. You know, let's think of communities that have been so marginalized that is actually dangerous to be seen, that is actually dangerous. You know, think of undocumented disabled people, especially right now with this administration. We live in so much danger. You know, just the fact that we dare to exist in our bodies with our differences is dangerous. So organizing underground and supporting one another, really truly showing up, um, is also among the things that we do. Calling out ableism, calling it for what it is, not making excuses for people. Oh, it's family. Oh, in the name of love. Oh, it's ignorance. Oh, they don't know better. No, enough. This is the time to call out ableism just for what it is. Zero, 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 zero tolerance for ableism, zero tolerance for transphobia, zero tolerance for anything that contributes to our oppression. And finally, I just want to say that when disabled people organize, it is so damn beautiful. And it is like nothing that the non disabled world, nothing that capitalism has experienced doing. So remember, we beat them with experience. The experience of our survival is something that we have and they don't. They need us. Check.
This is T speaking. Thank you, Maria. Um, I wanna think of fascism like on like our social media advertising for this talk tonight. A lot of folks were like, so what is fascism? And I think that's important for us to add that to the conversation. I have a working definition. I'm working on a lot of working definitions tonight, but that's how we Crips do. My working definition for fascism is a far right-winged government, totally answering to one dictator and the elites who use military, the police, which I mean, I see the police as military, but they use military, police, policy, and indoctrinated vigilantes to control and suppress the masses. So I argue, yes, you know, Trump coming in, definitely, we're going to be under a fascist um, regime because that's what it is. And also, we're under it right now. And we have been under it. We've been operating under it for a while. I think especially centering ourselves. Well, right now I am a documented American, so I live within the Imperial Core. But I'm also a Black American, a Black disabled, trans, queer American living within the Imperial Core, and I think that's important to understand. Um, you know, my positionality. I also I love the list that you brought out, Maria. And I'm gonna read my list too. Okay. And I think that right now, I'm struggling. I am struggling in this huge shift. of how to remain a part of community. I have been extremely isolated before the pandemic started. And as the pandemic continues, we are in year 5, y'all. Year 5. And I see our institutions, health institutions of all places, places that I have to frequent a lot, strictly abandoning us in our faces again with dropping mask mandates, um, testing, and with the TikTok ban happening, I haven't caught up in the last 3 days. Okay, so I might be missing some things, but I feel as if there's been this mass exodus off of Facebook and the Meta program. And I am so saddened by that because I worry about, because I've been deeply isolated, how do we stay connected? I know we've been saying this for years, even as an organizer, underground and above ground, we have to figure out modes and ways of communication, um, outside of these social networks. And it is also, I think it's unfair. I think based off of how isolated you are, what your language accessibility is as well. Like that dictates how um when the mass exodus of social networking moves, I wonder, how am I going to know about my neighbors that are in need, that need mutual aid, that it is a quick way to communicate those things. I think about digital security. And so anyway, I don't want to take up much time, but I think under the suppression that we're under right now, I am constantly thinking about how do we digitally secure ourselves? How do we stay connected outside of the meta universe? I think also how but also things that I'm doing is that I have some virtual groups through LNU, check us out. And that is one way that I stay connected, right? And I also think about how my art that I put out into the world is also communicating stories of my community, is uplifting the struggles that are happening right now. I think sometimes even social media can be harmful in covering up certain things, but it also has been very good at highlighting. So I think we're all artists on here. And so I'm thinking about the ways in which we use our platforms and our mediums of art to really highlight what's going on. And then also witnessing the organizings of others within extreme states of oppression. I think that's another thing that was been helpful with social media. We've been up and close and personal with the struggles of folks internationally, and I'm specifically thinking about, like, how do other folks who are under extreme states of oppression and apartheid, and how they take care of each other in Sudan, Congo, Palestine. That informs me on the strategies to take care of my people locally. So check.
This is Topher. Topher signing. See? Wow, you're not taking space. Like, we do experience a lot of oppression, and we definitely have that hunger for connection. I'm going to be reading. I want to spotlight deaf people that sign and now that under the Trump administration, interpreter, miss, sorry.
Interpreters are clarifying. This is Topher. I'm going to go back again. So just to put this out there for the disabled and deaf signing community and the perspective as well, when Trump won the presidential election in 2016, I noticed myself as a professional deaf interpreter with my DI deaf interpreter and HI hearing interpreter colleagues having to continually fingerspell fascism, FASCISM. And currently, there is no ASL standardized sign for the English word fascism. It has to be fingerspelled, but the issue here is that fingerspelling a word letter by letter doesn't automatically provide accessibility for the majority of disabled, deaf-blind, deaf-disabled, hard of hearing, and latent deaf community. That continually creates a form of language deprivation. And also, ironically, ASL has a sign for communism. And I think that, again, is because the system has been severely against communism, and there's a specific agenda regarding that we don't have to get into today. So, with ASL not having a sign for fascism, capitalism, and various other forms of systems, but just having communism, I am proposing to workshop a sign in ASL for the word fascism. And this is the sign, this which is related to the sign for Hitler, which is an H on the above the upper lip, which is also representative of his mustache, and also the sign of government, so H government, or the F on the lip as similar to Hitler for fascism. So I think of the lack of accessibility in education within sign language, specifically in regards to this. I see that there's many signing deaf disabled community members are supporting Trump and supporting what's going on within the Israel conflict. But at the same time, we see that in rural places, statistically, are also the Republican or a side that has been supportive, but also statistically as well, the areas that have the least amount of access in education. So how do we make sure that we are continually supporting each other in this engagement and making sure that we are continuing to mobilize and provide accessibility in that sense? And again, so then that relates to my third question. Why is the intersection of disability justice, abolition, and care work so important for our collective liberation in a white supremacist, ableist, capitalistic society? T, do you want to start? Check.
Hi, thank you, Topher. I, hmm, I'm thinking about what you just said, and it's affecting me because I do want to talk about a huge part of fascism, right, is propaganda. And I am very concerned about the ways I I'm concerned that we don't have a collective north here in our communities because of, like you're bringing up right now, language access barriers. Just in general, I think as artists that understand what is going on, I think we have to rededicate ourselves in our modes of organizing and communications with each other to bring it back to the collective and make sure that the things that we believe, we are also constantly in interpreting or putting in our work, putting in our art, putting it when we are meeting, we have to have these conversations. And I think that we have to back away from being trying to be perfect. I think sometimes as longtime organizers, we feel pressure and a responsibility to kind of know and have all of the answers, even having perfect even having working definitions, right? Like we're working towards these definitions, right? And I want us to, I think a part of care work, um I'm gonna bring it back to the, sorry, I'm everywhere, with the 10 points of disability justice, which Sins Invalid, created, right, this framework for us. I'm really thinking about how we are going to get to collective access. Um, and how are we defining access? Who are who are we considering our community? And are we, and what modes of communication are we relying on in order to make sure that folks are understanding or getting the information that is happening. And so I'm struggling. I'm struggling because I feel like in order to get to collective access, in order to get to this mode of interdependence, we are going to have to be in struggle with each other. We are not going to get it right. And I think we have to be brave enough to show up and mess up. I think we have to be brave enough and try out cross disability organizing, right? I think we have to be brave enough and show up and realize that we're not showing up, or what we thought was accessible for everyone is not. And when we are able to move past that defensiveness, when we are able to, like as Maria was talking about, centering our movements, our art, and things in love. Access is love, okay? I think when we center that, when we center empathy, and that is a guiding framework for us, I think we will be able to move really into collective access, right? um so yes, check.
And this is Maria. And I'm not exactly sure how the heck to follow that. Uh, because it feels like T, you almost took everything that I would have said. However, I do want to say something, Topher. The fact that there is no sign name for fascism is so telling, for one thing, because oppression, when we are oppressed, keeping us without the ability to name the oppression is part of that tactic, and it also made me think of for how long we have a way of naming other forms of oppression, like ableism. The word ableism, it's still so new, even in disabled communities. I know people, especially Spanish speaking people, who have never ever heard of the word ableism in Spanish. Um, And, growing up disabled as I did, I can tell you that was one of the things that I noticed that something was off, when people would direct ableism towards me, for example, but I couldn't name it because there was no word for it. Um, so it is so important for us to be able to define that oppression, for us to be able to name it, for us to be able to touch it with our experiences, so that way we can share it with other people, other disabled people, because there are so many others who have been so incredibly oppressed that they have no clue that they have the right to say no or say yes, that they don't have the right to really exist. So as we move forward in creating our own definitions, our own ability to name this oppression, this pain, this need, this being left out, when we don't have the words to name them and define them and explain them to others, it is very easy for us to continue believing that we don't deserve to know, or we continue believing that it's okay to be marginalized, that's all we deserve. Oh God, in one of my pieces during the show that we just had, since Invalid, we just had our show, I mentioned this. I mentioned how there are groups of disabled people so isolated that they truly believe that ableism is all there is and all that they deserve. And that hurts so much. That hurts so much to realize that there are disabled people out there who do not have what we have. And that is why it's so very important for us to hold on to the knowledge that we do have and pass it on. Not just hold on for ourselves, but hold on so we can share it, so we can be able to speak the words and name the oppression and say, this is what hurts. This is how you make me feel with your actions, and know that we deserve to do it. So I also, T, you mentioned your definition of how you define fascism. And I think it's so very important for all of us to understand, because, fascism, like ableism, is a word that's fairly unknown. People tend to think that it is like something that only the extreme whatever people, like, people who are like the most rebellious, the ones who are unsatisfied with everything, and the ones that are and that's not true. Fascism is connected directly with ableism, with eugenics. It is connected to everything that destroys anybody who is different. So it is so important for us to actually understand it and call it what it is, because um if we continue just leaning on the non-disabled lack of humanity for us, then we will also contribute to the dehumanization of other disabled people. So we have to call ableism what it is, to understand what fascism is. And in my working definition, oh my God, I think I lost it. So anyway, I want to quickly just read my little how I came up with what I define as and now I can't find it. Yeah, so I define, when in working in my definition of fascism, and that was happening today. I was like working, preparing for being with you guys today, and I just like, how do we define it? This is a word, because you could Google it up and it kind of tells you, but how do we understand it? Like when we explain to other people, and in my definition, the way that I came to is, I define fascism as years of bigoted ignorance that have dangerously fermented into toxic ideations of unrealistic superiority attained only by birth into white, non-disabled privilege. So I think that in that little paragraph, if we were like to like explain it like in those few words to people, and it is so important to have a way to be able to say, this is what fascism is. This is how I understand it. Years of fermented bigotry, and it's like so scary. Fascism scares the shit out of me. You know, it is so, so freaking scary. So I personally encourage everybody, if you don't have a way of naming your oppression, of naming the pain that causes you to, God, to be oppressed, and let's find a way to name it, you know, and let's lean on each other. You know, let's count on each other's survival, because we are so powerful and so strong and so beautiful, and we have so much history. And just because we have been denied the opportunity to learn and to know where the oppression comes from, it doesn't mean that we deserve to stay there. So let's lean on one another, because we already have what it takes to survive. We already have everything that we need to support each other. Check.
This is Topher signing. Wow, let me take a breather. Wow. Topher signing. I wholeheartedly agree with Tia and Maria's comments. I'm, I all of my family were all deaf and we're disabled. We're like the people who we can see, right? We have the ability to see. So there are also some concepts that are abstract that we sort of try, to understand. And we try to envision, white supremacy, or me personally, I try to envision white supremacy as a beast with several faces altogether. And I think it looks like an anti-black, perfectly fine, able with anti-black ableism, settled colonialism, and fascism as well. That is the white supremacy beast that I see, that I envision. That is how I envision white supremacy, with many, many ugly faces. And going back to what Tia and Maria's comments, specifically about explaining fascism, I was thinking of an article that I read, and I remember reading it and laughing and thinking that it was so annoying. And I was also frustrated with it. I don't remember from which state was it. I think it was from Florida or somewhere. Some university did a research of one indigenous group, and they were studying how has decreased over the years with oppression
And stress.
and stress, and how stress have led to them, how they can be. Do you mean, I'm sorry, interpreter mistake? Do you mean like how they? Hold on a second, the interpreter clarifying something. The interpreter clarification. By doing different breathing exercises, the unit community can decrease stress. I don't remember specifically from where it was, but how they use breathing. But I was a little bit frustrated because white supremacy itself has destroyed that knowledge. And if, for example, if in the past white supremacy has never touched or have never encountered the natives community, what a difference we may have, right? We might be even more advantaged. But I feel that over the years, because of that, it has been like it has gotten dirty. Let me find again. Okay, we're gonna clarify something the interpreter made a mistake.
So the clarification for the interpret part is if white supremacy never had encountered the indigenous communities, they would never have to have studied the experiences of indigenous communities experiencing stress or what they've been experiencing, and also would not need to have to create any new terms for the type of experiences that they've been traumatized by.
So for signing, then we have like around 30 minutes left. Tia Maria, would you like to take like a 5-minute break, or are you okay? I just wanted to check. Check.
This
This
is,
is
oh, sorry. I'm personally okay, but I'm willing to go either way with whatever others need. Like,
this is this is T speaking, and I am okay to go continue as well. Check.
So for signing, would it be okay if we take like a 5-minute break? I just feel that I've been on this screen stuck for all this time, and I just need like a 5-minute break.
Yes.
We invite in the audience to drop your questions in the Q&A section. Also, are reminded to take water, to drink water, and we will be back at, oh wait, 58, 58, 58.
This is Topher signing. Hopefully everyone is back and ready for the last 15 minutes of our session. I do want to clarify one comment. Before we had left for break, the interpreter said misinterpreted what I had signed. And I had said that my deaf eyes have been stuck on the screen, that I needed a break. So just want to clarify the interpretation there. Okay, so now that we're all back, fourth question is related to mutual aid. Now, what are some care work organizations or whatnot you would like to put out there? Tia, Maria, any mutual aid that really resonates with you that you would like to share with folks?
This
Who wants
is
to? Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Maria.
Oh my gosh. So mutual aid, I feel it's a very crucial and important part of our ability to survive as marginalized disabled folks. It is no secret that, as an example, very employable disabled people are unemployed, right, because of ableism, and we are denied the opportunity to contribute because of capitalism. You know, we are faced by this very unrealistic capitalist non-disabled expectations of productivity, right? And so therefore one way of fighting back is utilizing mutual aid as a way to support one another, to show up for each other. And again, I want to highlight that this is part of what disabled people have been doing all along, building ways of connecting with each other, showing up for each other in unconventional ways. A lot of times mutual aid, people misunderstand it as like, oh, there you go. They associate it with charity, right? And the word charity is such an ableist, loaded word. So when we think of mutual aid, um, in the context of survival, I think of how important it is for us to find ways to show up for each other, um, and and do so utilizing mutual aid as not as charity as it is probably seen by a lot of non-disabled people, but as a tactic of survival, as a revolutionary uh, act, to be able to show up. Again, I want to highlight how outside the box we have to think in order to survive, and mutual aid is one of those things. That over the last few years, because of technology, we now have the ability to put together GoFundMe campaigns to like really, really, really come together. So to me, mutual aid is a necessary way of rebelling against capitalism and showing up for one another, showing up for each other. So, um, yeah, I tend to think in ways in which we can be revolutionary in doing things outside the box, because as disabled people, we are being denied access to employment. We are being denied access to community. We are being denied the ability to contribute our personal talents as they are, so we have to find ways, and mutual aid is the perfect answer a lot of times. It is because of mutual aid that many of us have been able to support each other. And that's another thing, like when we talk about showing up for one another, I think that a lot of people think that if you cannot contribute monetarily, then you cannot contribute at all, and that is not the case. Mutual aid has to be thought of something beyond monetary contributions, because not all of us have the ability to give money, but all of us have the ability to give something. All of us, no exception, we have the ability to contribute, to share. And when we think about our time as a resource, as an asset, all of us have the same amount of time, 24 hours in a day. And all of us have that time as an asset and our ability to give. To me, the person who gives me their time is so, so appreciated and so valued. So to me, when I think of mutual aid, I want to think way, 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 way outside the box. I want to think like, even if I don't have money, I'm able to support, I'm able to, and let's think in terms of, like, again, disability justice through the lens of disability justice. When we use the disability justice principles and we look at sustainability and interdependence, when we recognize that needing each other is not a bad thing, but it's life-saving, because it highlights our humanity. It makes us recognizable to the world as people who have something to give and something to share. So when I think of mutual aid, I absolutely want to remember that it's not always only about money, that all of us have something to give and the ability to share at some level. So I want to highlight and uplift mutual aid as a revolutionary act of survival for disabled people. Check.
This is T speaking. And period, Maria. I think that especially that last line, like, is definitely a definition of mutual aid that we need to carry. I need to get that on a shirt. Okay. So I'll be looking at this transcript later, because I think the way that you talk about these larger concepts, breaking down these terms, is so relatable. And I feel like that's a bit of language justice for me, even myself. Um, hmm. So I could go everywhere with this, but I wanted to say um ditto to what Maria is saying, but also that I think when I'm thinking about mutual aid right now, this is a monetary thing. There is a group in Milwaukee called Sunseeker MKE. They are a Black and trans led organization. Right now, they are raising funds to get a crisis response van outside and not tied to the police, because all of the crisis response vans in Wisconsin are directly tied to the police. And that is an act of mutual aid. They are trying to get a van. They are trying to raise 15,000, and more would be better. And so if you all could look up Sunseeker MKE, show them some love and support if you have some monetary funds. As Crips, we already know, okay? We take our little bit, okay? And we can give when we can, and it ends up being a lot. And so I just wanted to make sure I highlighted that today. I am very unaware. I know that we are in a critical crises right now, especially with Los Angeles and the Palacios um, neighborhoods. I am unaware. I don't have any names to give right now of direct funds to give and with agencies, but I am thinking of folks in the area and similarly thinking in mutual aid, right? Something that we learned, Crips learned, um, have been working around, right, is environmental justice, right? And especially as disabled folks. And so when masking, we think of the pandemic and masking too, but also we learned of air purifiers and masking and stuff because of the wildfires before, and disabled people, folks showing up for each other, doing that type of mutual aid work. And I think that propelled us as disabled folks to take care of each other as the pandemic, as COVID-19, or the quademic now, right? And making sure that we stay safe. Um, I'm gonna call out mass blocks, right? That are happening all around the US, and also clean air clubs. There is a shout out to Clean Air 608 and Mask Block 608 in Madison, and how they have like really formed and taking example of other groups. And I think it is okay. I think sometimes okay. Um, check. Passing it on.
This is Topher signing. I wish we had some more time to go further in depth about this, but we have 5 minutes remaining. And so I want to quickly plug in two organizations. One is Olive Guardians. They're an organization nonprofit run by disabled deaf Palestinians supporting people in Palestine, providing them with food and other basic needs. Secondly, HEARD, which is a national organization run by deaf disabled people who are specifically impacted by the carceral system. And they're an abolitionist organization as well. But now we have about 3 or 2 minutes left. Tia, Maria, is there anything that you two want to close out with as final thoughts? So, Maria, do you want to go first? Or Emily?
This is Maria. I just want to express my immense gratitude for the space and for the opportunity to be here discussing this very important and necessary topic. And also to encourage everyone to continue doing what you're doing, supporting disabled people, and remembering that when when you do support the most marginalized, you're not just doing it for them, for us, you're doing it for all of us because, disability justice is for everyone and we all need it. So let's hold on to one another. We need each other. Check.
This is T speaking. There's a couple of questions in the Q&A. I'm so sorry we couldn't get to them, but there's this one question on sustainability that keeps coming up, and I kind of wanted to just address it quickly. I think we are seeing high numbers of burnout, especially in virtual organizing spaces as disabled folks, and in mutual aid spaces. And I think that comes again to us not understanding or being in tune, present with ourselves and our yeses and our nos, and consensual work. And that meaning, when I'm saying consensual care work, I am saying, again, leaning into that yes or that no, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, and being brave enough to express that. Just because you're receiving care doesn't mean you have to just accept anything. And just because someone gives a bid for care doesn't mean that we have to stretch ourselves before. The bed crib, you know, is important to the movement and is important, and we should learn from those, especially bed cribs, right? And deaf folks and hard of hearing folks, just exactly how we can sustainably organize moving into the future. Thank you. Check.
Well, this is a really hard panel to bring to an end because we received an incredible amount of questions that all deserve answers. Um, but it's January 15th, and we're going to keep fighting this, and we're going to keep talking about this. And we are so grateful to you three for being with us and sharing your thoughts in this powerful conversation and your honest feels and the work that you do. Thank you to our Access team who made today's program accessible for us. This program was presented by the San Francisco Disability Cultural Center, a collaboration led by the LC and Lily Cox Haven of Hope, with support from the Paul K. Longmore Institute on Disability at San Francisco State University. It's all made possible thanks to financial contributions from the City of San Francisco's Human Service Agency's Department of Disability and Aging Services. We've got more programs coming up this month that are thinking about nourishing and care, such as our Creative Healing panel with Natasha Thomas and Antoine Hunter. We have a Cafe Crip on surviving ableism, and we have many, many more programs. It's no surprise that we had 3 artists today, because at the Cultural Center and the Longmore Institute, we believe that the arts are going to be one of the places where we take care of ourselves through this. So thank you all for being here, and we look forward to many more programs with you in 2025. Check.